So we're reading from Canto 2, chapter 9, verse 36. I'll read the translation. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, most certainly for it up to this, most certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So yesterday, Ishwar Prabhu spoke on this verse, and to his compassionate and merciful nature has left, just covered, I think, 2 pages, and then left, giving me mercy today for me to read through the rest. So we'll try our best to cover as much as we can, and I guess we'll try to then, whatever I get to today, then the rest would be, I think, Somendra Prabhu tomorrow? Thursday? More than that, okay. Okay. So this verse, if you read just the preceding verse, and read the translation of that, verse number 35, O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos, and at the same time do not enter the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I'm outside of everything. And yesterday I was having the good fortune of listening to a lecture by His Holiness Devamrita Swami, and he is saying, look at this mystery that Krishna is saying here. And what is that mystery? Krishna is saying that he exists within everything, yet he is outside of everything. So even though Krishna is within everything that we see in this world, but yet we cannot see him. That is the mystery. And how to unfold this mystery is by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. And that is described in this verse number 36 as the Rahasyam, a secret. It's devotional service is a secret. And if I just read the first part of the purport to verse number 36, to unfold the mystery of Bhakti Yoga as it is explained in the previous verse is the ultimate stage of all inquiries, or the highest objective for the inquisitive. Everyone is searching after self-realization in different ways, by Karma Yoga, by Jnana Yoga, by Dhyana Yoga, by Raja Yoga, by Bhakti Yoga, etc. To engage in self-realization is the responsibility of every living entity developed in consciousness. One who is developed in consciousness certainly makes inquiries into the mystery of the self, of the cosmic situation, and of the problems of life in all spheres and fields, social, political, economic, cultural, religious, moral, etc. and in their different branches. But here, the goal of all such inquiries is explained. As Ishwar Prabhu explained yesterday, everyone's looking for that ultimate happiness. We are all looking for that because His Holiness Devamrita Swami is explaining that how he termed it differently. He said, we are all seeking verification of our existence. So each one of us is trying to, accomplish that verification through different means. And a lot of times we look for other people to give us that verification. We take on all these isms with that hope that, we'll feel satisfied within ourselves. But what is that self? What is self-realization? We need to understand that. And he said that without connecting to Krishna, we'll never feel full satisfaction. So I'll continue today from where Ishwar Prabhu left off. And it is verse 36, and the text is starting off from indirectly. So it is indirectly, it is said that the whole Vedic social construction of human society is so made that everyone acts as a part and parcel of the complete body of the Lord. The intelligent class of men, or the Brahmanas, are situated on the face of the Lord. The administrative class of men, the Kshatriyas, are situated on the arms of the Lord. The productive class of men, the Vaishyas, are situated on the belt of the Lord. And the laborer class of men, the Shudras, are situated on the legs of the Lord. Therefore, the complete social construction is the body of the Lord, and all parts of the body, namely the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, are meant to serve the Lord's whole body conjointly. Otherwise, the parts become unfit to be coordinated with the supreme consciousness of oneness. Universal consciousness is factually achieved by coordinated service of all concerned to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that alone can ensure total perfection. Therefore, even the great scientists, the great philosophers, the great mental speculators, the great politicians, the great industrialists, the great social reformers, etc., cannot give any relief to the restless society of the material world because they do not know the secret of success as mentioned in this verse of the Bhagavatam. Namely, that one must know the mystery of Bhakti Yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.15, also it is said, Namam dushkritino muda prapadyante naradama mayaya pratagyana ashuram bhavam ashritaha. Because the so-called great leaders of human society are ignorant of this great knowledge of Bhakti Yoga and are always engaged in ignoble, I haven't heard that word before, ignoble acts of sense gratification, bewildered by the external energy of the Lord, they are stubborn rebels against the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they never agree to surrender unto Him because they are fools, miscreants, and the lowest type of human beings. Such faithless non-believers may be highly educated in the material sense of the term, but factually they are the greatest fools of the world because they, by the influence of the external material nature, all their so-called acquisition of knowledge has been made null and void. Therefore, all advancement of knowledge in the present context of things is being misused by cats and dogs, fighting with one another for sense gratification. And all acquisitions of knowledge in science, philosophy, fine arts, nationalism, economic development, religion, and great activities are being spoiled by being used as dresses for bad men. There is no utility in the dresses used for covering a coffin of a dead body, save getting false applause from the ignorant public. The Srimad Bhagavatam therefore says again and again that without attainment of the status of Bhakti Yoga, all the activities of human society are to be considered absolute failures only. It is said, Parabhavas tavad abhodjato yavanna jignashata atma tattvam yavat kriya tavat idam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, verse number 5. So we'll just pause there for a moment and maybe discuss a bit, and then we'll make our way through the rest of the purport. So we see here, obviously the purport that we started off today starts off with a description of Varnashram Dharma, and the different aspects of Varnashram Dharma, or the different components of it, and different. There are the Brahmanas who are considered to be the priestly class. There are the Kshatriyas who are known to be the administrators. There are the Vaishyas who are interested in trade and commerce, and then you have the Shudras who are just simply laborers. And this is this has been explained in the Bhagavad Gita itself, where how for a proper functioning of the human society, these four classes are actually needed. However, Prabhupada, who's always looking for every opportunity to add Krishna or to present Krishna as the ultimate goal of all knowledge. Once a reporter, I can't remember exactly if it was a reporter or if it was a disciple conversing with Srila Prabhupada, and he said that this world is not in want of anything except Krishna. So everything's incomplete without Krishna. So he's like, consider your life as being full of zeros. Your life, you may be a very accomplished person, or you've had all these accomplishments, but they're all like zeros. All you need to do is to put a 1 by that zero. And what we get is thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So that 1 is actually Krishna. Krishna is the It's Krishna that completes everything. We'll feel complete and satisfied when we are in connection with Krishna. So you see all these philosophers, scientists, reformers, what are they actually doing? Just yesterday in the most recent Back to Godhead magazine, there was a Prabhupada morning walk, and it is titled, I would paraphrase it, everyone is going to hellish life. I don't know the exact wording, but this was the essence, paraphrasing it. And in that, Prabhupada is condemning what these so-called leaders and these scientists are actually doing. And it said that all these people, all these leaders of society are so proud of creating something and attributing the success to themselves. But he said, what is the success of your creation? You're creating, just for you to even create a house, what's the value of that creation? Just to create one house, you have to demolish a tree. So just to create something, you have to destroy something. But he said, look at Krishna's creation. Krishna's creation is perfect. He doesn't have to destroy anything. So even the most insignificant thing for us in this world, a lot of us are so proud and so attached to our homes, to our properties, to whatever we may have. But the foundation of it comes from destroying something. So as they say in this world, everyone's, the gain of someone is the loss of someone. So in that lecture, Prabhupada's one servant, a disciple who's walking with Prabhupada, is saying that, Prabhupada is saying, take for example this nuclear energy. And this disciple was saying, yes, when I was studying at university, I studied that this nuclear energy is meant for the benefit of humankind. You can get, if you're able to harness the nuclear energy effectively, you'll get, bigger corn, bigger tomatoes, bigger pumpkins, and Prabhupada said, bigger deaths. He said previously, if there was some conflict, it'll just be limited to a few people. If, for example, if I get into a conflict with someone, and if it gets physical, then I may just go and injure that one person, or let's say the dependence of that one person, and in the course of doing so, it'll affect me, and so on. But now with these nuclear weapons, you're destroying people by the thousands, by the millions. So what's the use of this energy? Prabhupada said that look at how we are using our intelligence to do things that are accelerating our death. So Prabhupada said, what's the use of this, of living such a life? So as we see here in the purport and Prabhupada makes a very bold statement, there's no utility in the dresses they use for covering a coffin of a dead body, save getting false applause from the ignorant public. So people are being misled into believing that the enjoyment of our senses is our ultimate goal. And they are willing to undertake whatever inconveniences is too little of a word, but whatever consequences it may be for the greater good of humanity. For example, we drive our cars, and we previously, 300-400 years ago, people would ride on horses. And today we ride on cars that are made of horse engine. But in the process of doing that, look at what impact it's had on the environment in terms of the carbon emissions. Obviously, I'm not a science major, but little that I can see and little that we know, just going back a few months earlier in this year when COVID had first gained its traction, majority of the countries in the world announced a lockdown. and it was a lockdown from where people couldn't even drive. There were no flights that were being taken to travel across continents, across different countries. And within a very short amount of time, could be even weeks or days, they could see that how the whole carbon emission blueprint was, or the footprint was reducing. And the waters, the seas around the world were actually becoming much cleaner. So we as humans are destroying our own existence. So again, everything with Krishna in the center makes things complete. So I'll continue reading the purport. As long as one is blind to inquiring after self-realization, all material activities, however great they may be, are all different kinds of defeat, because the aim of human life is not fulfilled by such unwanted and profitless activities. The function of the human body is to attain freedom from material bondage, but as long as one is fully absorbed in material activities, his mind will be overwhelmed in the whirlpool of matter, and thus he will continue to be engaged in material bodies life after life. Evam mana karma vasham prayuntehe avidyat mani upadiyamane pritir nayavan mai vasudeve na muchyate deha yogena tavat. Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, verse number 6. It is one's mind that generates different kinds of bodies for suffering different kinds of material pangs. Therefore, as long as the mind is absorbed in fruitive activities, the mind is understood to be absorbed in nescience. And thus one is sure to be subjected to material bondage in different bodies again and again until one develops a transcendental love for Godhead Vasudeva, the Supreme Person. To become absorbed in the transcendental name, quality, form, and activity of the Supreme Person Vasudeva means to change the temper of the mind from matter to absolute knowledge, which leads one to the path of absolute realization and thus frees one from the bondage of material contact and engagements in different material bodies. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada therefore comments on the words Sarvatra Sarvadaha, in the sense that all the principle of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to the Lord are apt in all circumstances. That is, Bhakti Yoga is recommended in all the revealed scriptures. It is performed by all authorities. It is important in all places. It is useful in all cause and effects, etc. As far as all the revealed scriptures are concerned, he quotes from the Skanda Purana on the topics of Brahma and Narada as follows. Samsaresmin mahagore janma mrityu samakule pujanam vasudevasya tarakam vadibhi smritam. In the material world, which is full of darkness and dangers, combined with birth and death, and full of different anxieties, the only way to get out of the entanglement is to accept loving transcendental devotional service to Lord Vasudeva. This is accepted by all classes of philosophers. Srila Jiva Goswami also quotes another common passage which is found in three Puranas, namely the Padma Puran, Skanda Puran, and Linga Puran. It runs as follows: Alodhya sarvasashrani vicharya cha puna puna idam ekam sunishpanam dhyeyo narayana sada. By scrutinizing, reviewing all the revealed scriptures and judging them again and again, it is now concluded that Lord Narayan is the supreme absolute truth, and thus he alone should be worshipped. The same truth is also indirectly described in the Garuda Purana as follows. Param gatopi vedanam sarva sastrartha vedyapi yo na sarveshvare bhaktas tam vidyat purushadamam. Even though one may have gone to the other side of all the Vedas, and even though one is well versed in all the revealed scriptures, if one is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he must be considered the lowest of mankind. Similarly, also Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12 indirectly as follows. Yashyat sti bhaktir bhagavati yakinchana sarvair gunai tatra samasute sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahatguna manoratena shati dhato bahi. One who has unflinching devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead must have all the good qualities of the demigods. And contrarily, one who is not a devotee of the Lord must be hovering in the darkness of mental speculation, and thus must be engaged in material impermanence. Okay. I'll stop there for today. So there's one passage here, I'll just read that again and then we'll comment on that, where it says, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada therefore comments on the words Sarvatra Sarvada in the sense that principles of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to the Lord are apt in all circumstances. That is, Bhakti Yoga is recommended in all the revealed scriptures. It is performed by all authorities. It is important in all places. It is useful in all cause and effects, etc. So here we see, and what this is leading up to is how Srila Prabhupada emphatically describes that Bhakti Yoga is the only way, is the best, and is the means of achieving self-realization in this age of Kali Yuga, as described in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Harinam, 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 eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, 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 gatiranyata. There is no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way. So we find a similar theme here. And so I'll speak a little, we'll share a little of this mood of Srila Prabhupada. So in 1970, I was hearing a class by His Holiness Bhakti Brihad Bhagavat Swami, and he was narrating this pastime of Srila Prabhupada with a news reporter or television reporter. He was invited to a talk or to an interview, and the television reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, who is God? And Prabhupada, without any hesitation, said, Krishna is God. And this is on the news, this is on TV. And the television reporter was just stumped. Who is God? Krishna is God. So to that, the television reporter then asked, who is Krishna? And Prabhupada said, Krishna is God. And it was describing that how when Prabhupada's, as Maharaj was describing, this is a kind of a diksha, where when Prabhupada speaks about Krishna, that potency of Prabhupada being a pure devotee, just even saying Krishna can actually penetrate into the heart of the person that's receiving it. Because the very moment he heard the word Krishna, he inquired, who is Krishna? And that is the difference between, a lot of times, people from India, when we go out on book distribution or we just happen to run into some person, and when we approach them and they ask, what are you doing? And we show them a book and they ask, who is it about? And we say, this is about Krishna. And 9 out of 10 times, they say, oh, we've heard of Krishna since our birth. Our grandma would tell us stories about Krishna growing up. We know all about Krishna. But here it is, when Prabhupada speaks about Krishna, through his lectures, through his purports in these books, it penetrates into the hearts of the people who are receiving it. That their lives are immediately transformed. Yesterday, Ishwar Prabhu was speaking about a previous passage in this purport, where the Bhagavad Gita is accepted as one of the most brilliant stars in the horizon of the spiritual sky. Yet the interpretations of the great book of knowledge have so grossly been distorted that every student of the Bhagavad Gita is still in the same darkness of glaring material reflections. So, Prabhu was mentioning how, prior to Prabhupada's arrival in the West, there was a lot of editions of Bhagavad Gita that were circulated, that were present in the academic and different philosophical circles. However, they failed to even create one devotee of Krishna. And as soon as Prabhupada arrived, at that very moment, as Prabhupada completed the translation of Bhagavad Gita, and now this Bhagavad Gita is the most highly circulated copy of the Bhagavad Gita on this planet. And we judge the tree by its fruit. What is it doing? It's making devotees all over the world, in different places, in all circumstances, and across. If I'm to follow along here, it is said, where is it? Yep. In all the revealed scripture, performed by all authority, is important in all places, and is useful in all causes and effects. So, we often say purity is the force. And Prabhupada, being a pure devotee, can sense that purity in other people. Not only is he a perfect preacher, but he's the perfect preacher, he is the perfect representative of the parampara. And in that instance, where he was speaking to the news reporter, he was able to sense just a slight amount of sincerity in that person asking that question. And he saw that potential. And we won't get into that conversation, but as that conversation went, that interviewer had so many questions to ask. And Prabhupada could gauge that he was sincere. He saw that this is the potential in this person, that I can give him Krishna. So that was a sort of a diksha, where the moment he spoke Krishna, that sense of inquisitiveness arose in the heart of that person. So, I would like to narrate a pastime here that touched me a lot. It changed my life. I was in Dallas in 2012. It was the 40th anniversary installation of the deities there, Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji, that were installed by Srila Prabhupada. And the speaker was a Mataji, a very stalwart disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Mother Krishna Nandini. She is African American bodied, and it just happened to be that she left us this past week. And she was an illustrious disciple of Srila Prabhupada. She's touched the lives of thousands of devotees all across the globe. So I had the good fortune of hearing her speak at that time. And she was saying her whole life in the course of that. So the occasion was Radhashtami. And she was saying how so her story is quite fascinating. Her mother, who was a devout Christian, she had read pretty much, she was a devout Christian, she was a vegetarian, and she had about 6 kids, of which this Mataji, Mother Krishna Nandini, was one. So she had read the Bible, she was, like I said, a devout Christian. And it happened to be that she came in touch with Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And as she read the Bhagavad Gita, that conviction arose in her that this is it. I have found my teacher. And what I want to get to here is that the theme of the rest of the discussion here is how earlier in this verse it says, a person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of God, must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So how certain examples that I'll share with you now are of those people who have done that, who've gone beyond mundane or beyond the material platform to just search for everything that they could to come to this point. So this mother of this Mataji, or this Prabhupada disciple, as soon as she was convinced that this is what I was looking for, she faced a lot of confrontation from her family. And her family told her, "Isn't Jesus enough for you?" And she said, with all due respect, Jesus has guided me to this point. And she called her daughter, she told her daughter that Prabhupada stresses in the Bhagavad Gita that one should live in the association of devotees. So I have found a temple very close to the city I'm in. Please come with me and we'll all go and stay in the temple community. This was in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Cleveland or in Chicago. So this Mataji, along with the mother and 5 other kids, all just packed their bags and went to live at the temple. Now, it just happened to be, it was under certain circumstances, unfortunate circumstances or fortunate circumstances. I'll leave that for you to decide. They were asked to leave the temple. And they left the temple with a tank full, with a car full of fuel. They didn't know where to go. So they sit in the car and they just start driving. They start driving, they're just following whatever they comes to their, to their, whatever makes sense to them. They keep driving, they keep driving, they keep driving. Finally, they arrive somewhere and they just fall asleep in the car. And guess what happens next? A few devotees are walking past the car who are chanting Harinam. And all of a sudden they wake up like, oh, what's happening? What's happening? And the devotees say, oh, and because they knew that they are devotees, they could identify because they're doing Harinam. They asked, oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. And the devotees like, who are you? And they said, oh, we're from Cleveland. Where are we in? Oh, they said, we're actually very close to Dallas. And not too far from here is the temple. So they said, oh, wow, okay. They said, okay, let's go. So they go to the Dallas temple, and I'm not sure now, but even then, if 7 to 8 people just show up on your doorstep, please allow us to stay in your temple. I am not sure what will Isha Prabhu say, but so the temple president at that time said, okay, where are you from? And they said, we are from Cleveland. And they call up the temple, he calls up the temple president there, and they say that, and he just to get a reference, and he said, I have some people here, and they say from Cleveland, and the temple president there says that, don't allow them. And this temple president in Dallas is like, okay, what should I do? So he goes up to these people and he says, you cannot stay inside the temple, but just for one night, you can be outside. I can't remember exactly where they ended up staying, but you can stay outside, but you have to leave tomorrow. And they said, okay. And the devotees asked why. Because he said, because tomorrow Srila Prabhupada is coming. And they were like, wow, Srila Prabhupada is coming. A hero. Because they've never seen Prabhupada. They've just read about him in books. They didn't know what he looked like. They're like, please. So these devotees pleaded to them, the Mataji and then the mother, and please, they pleaded, we'll do anything. Make us clean the floor. Just give us something to do. We just want to be here to see Prabhupada. So the temple president agreed, okay, that's fine. And the next morning, Srila Prabhupada arrives. And he comes to the temple. And unknown to everyone, the mother of this Mataji was writing letters to Prabhupada for a long, long time. And Prabhupada was corresponding with her through letters. And as, obviously there was that relationship that Prabhupada knew who these were. And then the temple president said, okay, I told you to stay just for a night. Now Prabhupada is here. And we are very busy because Prabhupada will be doing initiations tomorrow. And they were like, initiations? We would like to get initiated. And he said, no. And he said, please just go up to Prabhupada and just say that we would like to get initiated. So obviously temple president went up to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, there are these 6 or 7, I can't remember exactly how much, 6 or 7 devotees up here from Cleveland. and they're asking to get initiated. I don't know exactly if he said the number, but he said there are devotees from Cleveland, and the main person is this lady. This is her name, and she's been corresponding with you. And Prabhupada just said, ask them how many. And he was just shocked. He's like, okay. And then he told Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I've heard from the Cleveland Temple president that they are nothing but troublemakers. Are you sure you want to do this? And Srila Prabhupada said, and the moment this Mataji, who I heard in Dallas, said what Prabhupada said, it touched me so deeply. And she said, Prabhupada told this temple president, wherever I see a little spark, I must fan it. And to this Mataji just burst up in tears. She said, you don't know how wonderful and how compassionate and how merciful Srila Prabhupada is. For him, wherever I see a little spark, I must fan it. So this verse says that these person who's searching must search up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly and indirectly. Certainly, extending that to devotees who are most compassionate to extend their mercy to others, also go above and beyond to any extent to give Krishna to others. So like I said, this Mataji has done the most amazing services for the Grihastha ashram in a wider society of ISKCON. And her contributions are immense. And she said that each time she's had and she concludes her talk by saying that this has been a difficult path. I wouldn't say it's been an easy one, but I wouldn't trade an ounce of it. She said that despite all its difficulties and challenges that have come, I wouldn't trade an ounce of it for anything else. Because, she didn't say this, because she is convinced. So are we convinced that that we have achieved, or not we have achieved, but what we have is what we've been looking for our whole lives? And devotees out there have undertaken a lot of risks just to give Krishna to others. I remember this one pastime my Guru Maharaj was saying when he was going to Pakistan. And he said that he was invited, him along with other devotees were invited to meet with there was a Diwali event that was hosted by the Hindu Council, the Hindu authorities of the whole of Pakistan, and the devotees were given a 5-minute slot, just 5 minutes, to do what they should do. And in the audience was the then dictator, or the then president, or the military general of Pakistan, who was known to be an extremist in his religious views. And he was there attending. And Maharaj said that the devotees had only 5 minutes to do what they had to do. So they were discussing different things. What should we do? Because we only have 5 minutes. And Maharaj said, let's chant. Let's chant the Mahamantra and depend on Lord Chaitanya. And he said that we went onto the stage and we started chanting slowly. Finally, the kirtan gained its crescendo, and Maharaj had his eyes closed the whole time. When he opens his eyes, what does he see? Everyone in the audience is dancing, including the general of Pakistan. So, this is the transformational effect of the process of Bhakti Yoga, that can transform someone despite of whatever material designation, despite of whatever differences that there may be on the material platform. So, like I said, we take the mercy that's been offered to us and we extend that to others. And to the extent that we offer it to others, to that extent we receive mercy from the chain of disciplic succession through our acharyas, our spiritual masters and the devotees. So I will end here. Any questions or comments? Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thakur Premanande. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.